could please have a motion to accept the minutes from the last meeting.
So moved. Second.
Motion a second. All in favor, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, very good. Okay, we have we have one old item on the agenda. I don't know if we want to continue to take time. I'll defer to the sponsor.
I'd like to get out of committee for a vote, please, if possible.
Okay. Any further discussion? I see we have somebody across the aisle, I believe, from administration. Am I right?
That's right, Chairman Freeman, but I am here for your new agenda item. I don't have anything else to say on this.
Okay, very, very good. Okay. Let me see. I do not see any hands. If I'm missing anyone, we're talking about the item on the old agenda right now.
Would you like me to read that in, Mr. Chair?
I'm sorry, yes.
Okay. The item on the old agenda, regular agenda, is a resolution urging local leaders to join the Power a Clean Future Ohio campaign to develop and implement climate solutions and declaring an emergency.
Okay, any comments from anyone? Any hands? Ms. Mosley, anything you'd like to offer?
Nothing further. Just wanted to move it to the floor for a vote.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
So do I have a motion? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Chair, Councilman Malik has his hand raised here in chambers.
Okay, very good. Mr. Malik?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just briefly, I know we had discussion about this 2 weeks ago, and that there's clearly, strong opinions on both sides of this. I did want to make one additional point that I neglected to make two weeks ago, which is that Power Clean Future Ohio is not just a state organization. It's a coalition of a lot of different statewide organizations that include the Sierra Club, the Ohio Environmental Law and Policy Center, the Ohio Mayor's Alliance, and really dozens of others. And so again, I think it's really important to note that these are organizations that we really should be engaged with at the state level, and this is an opportunity to do so. If there are areas in which we feel like their focus on equity is inadequate, I don't see it, but I think that we should be at the table having those conversations and pushing, rather than saying we're going to kind of do it our own way. So that's my perspective.
Okay, thank you. And I would ask our rep from the city, could you go back just a couple weeks ago? I know there was hesitancy on their side. Could you just kind of refresh my mind on that? And then Ms. Holland, I'll come to you.
Yes, Chairman Freeman, this is Emily Collins on behalf of the administration, and our opposition to the Power Clean Future Ohio model is one that's based in how they work with cities, which, and our main concern does relate to how they approach equity conversations. My understanding of joining as a Power Clean Future Ohio city involves us deeming someone within the administration as the right contact person to coordinate with them and develop plans with them. And it's not, we're not interested in pursuing the planning process in that way. I think that might be the best summary.
And if I may, and Emily, if I'm out of line, please correct this. We do meet or exceed the expectations set forth by this organization. So at this point, we do recognize the fact it is a resolution, and we would encourage your body to vote on it.
Okay, very good. Ms. Holland, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I did. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just 2 points. We do have a motion on the floor, and this is just a resolution. This is a statement of position. It is meant to encourage the administration to take this next step. And from my research, which has been not inconsiderable, this is, again, the metaphor that I used a few weeks ago. This is to me like accepting a library card. This does not require mandatory following of some their organization or some other city's way of doing things. This is a resource and a good one, and one that is free. Thank you.
Thank you. Help me out, Sarah, if I'm missing anyone else, please.
I don't see it. Oh, I do see it. Councilman Neal has his hand raised up.
Okay, I see Mr. Neal's hand now. Mr. Neal?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just have a question. I know there was some concern of aligning with this group and them having influence on our policy. And I believe I had asked a question, who were we as a city collaborating with? As far as those organizations in our community that have an interest in this area, like like the folks at White Pine, Tice Road, Mirror Valley, Gaines, Big Love. Is the city collaborating with any of those folks?
Mr. Neal, we take a look at every community conversation. I think even in the next presentation, you're going to see who we have relationships with and how we try and build and grow those every opportunity we get.
So is that saying that we are working with those organizations?
I'm not going to define working with, but we are familiar with them. We know their policies. Nobody's reached out to me specifically, but by all means, I think Emily is in this space and has conversations and could definitely speak to this a little bit better than me.
Okay,
Councilman Neal.
Mr. Chairman, I left out freedom block in that discussion as well. I just think so many times I've learned the different perspectives help us as legislators so that we can bring a more balanced perspective when working with the administration. And I understand your concerns, but mine is that when we talk about collaboration, so many times it's not true collaboration. So this is, for me, this looks like there's opportunity. The reason why I appreciate this is, one, it broadens my perspective of perspectives from folks that work in that, if I can use the term, that industry or that arena. But to the city's point, wanting to shape our own policy, that's where, for me, it's critical that we have those community partners who have assisted us in other environmental issues at the table as we're going along, and not bring them after we've already shaped our policy. So thank you for allowing me to have this time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Neal. I would like to come to Ms. Amobian now.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is simply this. I heard from one of the individuals representing the administration that the ordinance, the resolution calls for a point person or a contact with the city. I would imagine that if we approve this tonight, that there would be somebody that this organization could contact on behalf of council, feeling the need to have this in place. I'm sure there'll be such an individual. Are we saying that we don't have anybody that we can identify as a contact source?
Ms. Amobian, this is a recommendation. So if somebody would like to contact me, I'd take any information they'd like to provide me on this information.
So you could be the contact person.
Sure thing. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I do not see any other hands unless I'm missing someone in the chambers, so we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, then we will bring that forth this evening, and I do not believe we have any other items to come before us. Am I correct?
We do have one item under.
We do have one other item, Mr. Chair, but perhaps when we take care of that, if there's a moment that I can have for question.
I'm sorry, I'm just dealing with old items here. Now we're going into, and I will come back to Ms. Holland. Let's deal with the new ordinance. This is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to submit an application and, if awarded, enter into an agreement with the United States Environmental Protection Agency for a climate pollution reduction grant in furtherance of Mayor Horton's objectives of supporting new and existing community sustainability and resilience projects, authorizing the use of the funds if awarded, and declaring an emergency. To hear from, I think we're going to hear from the administration here, am I correct?
Yes. Yes, Chairman Freeman. You ready for that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. This is a $1 million grant that we would like your authorization to apply for. It is for the Akron Metropolitan Statistical Area, so MSA is the acronym for that. There's no match required. It's a planning grant. It is a planning grant that requires us as a region to detail a climate action plan by March 1st of 2024 and a comprehensive climate action plan within 2 years of receiving the award. And the third deliverable is a status report within 4 years. Going through this planning process with our regional partners will unlock the potential for $4.6 billion in competitive implementation grants based on the measures that we identify as important in that climate action planning process. The City of Akron has been working with several coordinating entities, 2 of which are represented behind me. ARACMED, which stands for the Akron Regional Air Quality Management District with Summit County Public Health, and AMATS. So Sam Rubens and Curtis Baker are sitting behind me. NEFCO is a third coordinating entity that we've been working with. And together we're seeking council's authorization to seek this planning grant, with the City of Akron being the lead organization to work with these coordinating agencies and other jurisdictions in the metropolitan statistical area to reduce greenhouse gases and harmful air pollutants and transition the region to more of a clean energy economy that benefits all of our residents, businesses, academic institutions in the city. I will note for you, and partially in response to Councilman Neal's prior comment, that one of the features of this grant is that we will be defining what meaningful community engagement is. And it's important to us that we do that in thinking about what are called environmental justice communities, with which the US EPA has mapped, defined, and has key goals for engaging with communities that we have to fulfill. And there's no doubt in my mind that the organizations that Councilman Neal listed are among those that we will absolutely be engaging with for this process. I think we have a total of 8 letters of support from other jurisdictions at the moment, and we anticipate receiving more. It's been a really wonderful conversation with our regional partners to describe how we would like to go about this and how we would like to work as a region toward some of these goals. And I'm really excited about it. The deadline for the application is April 28th of this year, so we would love for this to be placed on the consent agenda. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will come to Ms. Holland this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Ms. Collins. I appreciate the work that you do and your concern and expertise around environmental issues and sustainability as concerns the City of Akron, more than I can even say. I'm assuming that the original funding of this grant program comes from the Inflation Reduction Act, and I appreciate that you provided a little bit of the timeline on this grant program, but what I'd like to know more about is exactly how much detail will go into a proposed scope of work for this grant, because it seems that, from kind of a longitudinal perspective, this thing is going to go on for a few years. Can you describe what the envisioned scope of work is in a little bit more detail?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I told you about 3 different deliverables. The first being a priority climate action plan, which has to be done by March 1st of 2024. And in fact, you can tell the federal government's really trying to push these funds out quickly because they're opening the implementation grant opportunity up this year. So we'll be in the hopefully toward the end of our planning process by the end of this year, and we'll be able to also have all of the regional entities apply for those implementation grants. But we'll be doing that with just that first deliverable in hand. So that priority climate action plan and the subsequent 2-year down the road comprehensive climate action plan has to include quantified greenhouse gas measures. And those can be anything that the various municipalities who are participating identify as important. It's also important to know, and Sam Rubens behind me can speak more to this from Arachmed, that we know what the sources of emissions are. So that's actually been quantified, and he has a lovely spreadsheet that he can share with all of us that identifies, what the targets are. But how each various jurisdiction goes about tackling those things is really up to them, and we need to include the measures in this priority climate action plan and comprehensive climate action plan in order to seek implementation funding. So yeah, the work plan is going to be centered around identifying what those measures are as a regional group. There's an opportunity to be part of what they're calling them climate innovation groups if we receive this funding. And I can talk more about the if involved in that. I think we're almost assured of receiving this funding. But in any case, I would really like for the Akron MSA to participate in the climate innovation groups for the purpose of innovation in the area of community engagement. So I'm hoping that we are a leader in the work plan that thinks through proper community engagement in low-income and disadvantaged communities. I think you're muted, Nancy. Councilwoman Holland, I think you're muted.
Thank you, Ms. Collins. May I ask a follow-up, Mr. Chair?
Sure, sure, go ahead.
Thank you. Particularly interested in the last couple of comments, Ms. Collins, and thank you. You definitely flesh out. I now have a better grasp of scope and also our interrelatedness with other area entities. And by no means mean this as a gotcha. I'm just genuinely interested, since I understand that some of our surrounding jurisdictions are part of Power Clean Future Ohio. I guess, do you see any advantage to, I guess, maybe using the same lexicon, if you will? Does it advance these sort of group project goals to be part of that group resource effort over here as we get into this, or do you see a disadvantage? I guess conversely. And similarly, do you see, and can we get a little bit of, I guess, commitment from the gentlemen who are with you today, or I guess in a kind of a general way, that some of the organizations that were identified by Councilman Neal, including Preserve the Valley and Big Love, Freedom Block, and some of the others who do have some expertise and some skin in the game, if you will, that they'll be brought in sooner rather than later?
To address your first question first, so I think the question was, is there any advantage or not to being a Power Clean Future Ohio city in going about, is the question related to how we, whether we get the grant, or is the question related to how you'll do within the process, the planning process? Is that it?
More the latter. I guess I'm asking is, is there an advantage or disadvantage to be part of the Power Clean Future Ohio, where we are ultimately working with surrounding jurisdictions?
Right.
And we're looking to sort of get on the same page with language, with metrics, with goals, or is it apples and oranges?
No, I understand your question. So the federal government has been very, very clear that it doesn't matter where any municipality is in the planning process. They may have pre-existing climate action plans or not. They may be in the midst of planning. And it doesn't matter. Any of those plans to be eligible for the future implementation funds have got to go through the process that the federal government has laid out for the climate pollution reduction plan requirements. For example, Monroe Falls is considering joining this regional coalition, and they are a Power Clean Future Ohio city, and they are thinking about how they can leverage what they've already produced through Power Clean Future Ohio to think about next steps. So I think this is largely about measures. So as long as each municipality can get the measures of implementation into this plan, then they can then be eligible for future funding. I don't think it disadvantages anyone to be part of, to have a climate action plan in place, but they're going to have to make sure that whatever they came up with is part of this plan if they want to be eligible for implementation funding, the $4.6 billion that's available in competitive grants later. Does that help?
It does. And then the second part of the question, inclusion of some of our grassroots organized
I'm sorry, yeah.
folks and experts.
Sooner rather than later, you can see how quickly we need to act on this. So March 1st of 2024 is quickly coming up. So there's no doubt in my mind that sooner rather than later is coming up for all of us. So I think every interested group, and I could read you, and I'll certainly send you some of the requirements for us to reach out as a region, not just as a city, but as a region, to make sure that we are including low-income and disadvantaged communities in our outreach. But that's largely the requirement. And there's no question, every organization that is interested needs to be part of this process. And I very much value the input that each of the organizations that that Councilman Neal had mentioned, and that you had mentioned, Councilwoman Holland, bring to the table. It's important.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, I think the next hand up was Ms. Amobian.
Well, I certainly thank Councilwoman Holland, because those were all my questions, and my recommendation was certainly for us to identify people from those various groups that Councilman Neal identified to get on board with us, because I'm learning as I spend some time around those individuals, you have a lot of expertise within those groups. But not only that, I just wanted to make a point, just to state just how the federal government is looking to the grantee to identify their own stakeholders. My agency, for an example, we just applied for a grant to serve some seniors, and within that, we did something we've never done before. We have invited the NAACP to help us address the group of individuals that are often left out, and they're doing some remarkable work with visiting seniors. And we're always talking about trying to expand our DEI, but we forget to invite people who are very good at doing that. And so we recently did that. So I think the federal government is looking to us to identify our own stakeholders and those individuals we want to partner with. So I'm happy to hear Emily talk positively about these groups and trying to invite them to the table to help us move forward. So thank you very much for that, Emily.
Thank you. And I do see, I cannot identify who it is, I do see another hand raised in chambers, perhaps.
Yes, that's Councilman Malik has his hand raised here in chambers.
Okay. Thank you, Councilman Mallett.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just want to thank everyone who's joining us today. And Ms. Collins, I think this is a really worthy goal, and I appreciate that we're aggressively going after it. Just a very simple question. When the final application is submitted, could we just receive a copy of it as well?
Absolutely.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, I do not see any other hands, any other comments. Do I have a motion from the floor anywhere?
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry to interrupt, but Gert Wilms here in Chambers has her hand raised.
Okay, I'm sorry, who's that again?
Gert Wilms. Gertrude Wilms on behalf of the mayor's office.
Oh, okay, very good, thank you.
That's okay. I didn't want to interrupt the vote, but I did want to let everyone know we do have with us today Tessa Smith. Tessa, if you want to stand. Tessa is the new grants manager. This is her second full week last week. I wanted to bring her before council. She's helping Emily out with some of the grant request on this. So I wanted to make sure you knew that position had been filled, and Tessa's here with us today.
Okay, and I'm remote here. Raise your hand wherever you're at in the chambers. I'm looking. Is he? Okay. I just want to see what he looks like, because I know this is a position we've been looking for a while.
I do too, Mr. Chair, and I can only see you.
Okay, so I don't know if we can accommodate that, but I'm glad that we have someone hired now. All right, is there a motion from the floor? Committee, rather?
So moved.
Okay, motion, is there a second?
What was that motion for, please?
Motion for suspension of rules with a favorable report.
Thank you.
Second.
We have a second?
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay, we'll see that that passes this evening. Ms. Collins, thank you so much for your work. And if
Thank
we
you,
have
sir.
nothing else to come before us, we are adjourned at 3:12 p.m. Thank you.
That is the final committee meeting of the day. Council will meet at 7 o'clock tonight. Thank
Ms.
you.
Viviano, I think Ms. Holland had a question. Was there a question that we were going to return to before?
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Holland, I thought the question we were going to return to was the question you had already asked, so. Yeah, and I had said that we would come back. I'm sorry, I thought we covered that. So please proceed, and then we'll adjourn. Thank you. You're on mute.
I can't tell if she's frozen. Oh, now she's moving. Councilwoman Holland, do you want me to send you a prompt? Are you having trouble unmuting? Hopefully something just showed up on your screen asking you to unmute.
Ms. Holland, if all else fails, maybe try your space bar. Sometimes that will unmute me as well. No luck.
Is it possible to type it in the chat and or respond that way?
Or, Ms. Holland, would you want to reserve some comments for this evening, seeing that you're having an issue with your electronics there?
Councilwoman Holland, do you want to try to leave the meeting and come back? Sometimes reconnecting helps. Mr. Chair, she's joining on another device to see if that helps.
Oh, okay, we'll give another moment here. Now, do we have you, Ms. Holland? Sorry. Sorry, we can't hear you. Maybe, if it's something maybe want to take a few minutes tonight and share, then you'll have the situation worked out. Give me a thumbs up. That's still don't have you.
Mr. Chair, I have her on the phone. Do you want to see if you can hear her?
Okay, hold her. We've never done this before, but go ahead.
Go ahead, speak, Nancy.
Thank you both. I have had a number of questions, and we have touched on this from time to time in various meetings about whether ever the city will consider expanding access to the Fairlawn gig service that is coming to various city buildings so that residents might enjoy access to that more affordable service too. And I'm wondering if there's somebody attending the meeting today who can give a simple response to the question, or whether we can get this on our agenda so that the public can understand once and for all the status of that issue.
Very good. Do we have anyone in chambers right now that can address this? Because I think,
Chairman Freeman, I'll take a crack. At this point, it's that missing mile, the middle mile. So no, we currently do not have 100% of plan in place. There's still talks about how do we expand that, how would we include the growth of any broadband in our area. So I do know OID is working on it, potentially putting something out for bid. Before that happens, we would definitely be here to give you an update of where that potentially could go and what those options are. But to, yes, partner with Fairlawn Gig, no, there is no intention at this point to do that, but to potentially put something out to bid and go that route.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
And thank you.
That was good thinking, actually. So, Ms. Amovia, thank you for coming to Ms. Holland's rescue there for the purpose of the audio. Thank you. All right, now if we have nothing else to come before us, we will adjourn at 3:19. Thank you.
That is the final committee meeting of the day. Council will meet at 7 p.m. tonight. Thank you.